Bishop Taylor, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for your support. Um, just welcome to our studio.
Well, thank you.
Uh, like I normally do, I ask our guests to go back, reach way back, childhood, and start giving us your story about, what kind of family you grew up in, if you were a cradle Catholic or whatever, what your childhood was like, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Well, I had a wonderful childhood. In my family, I was raised Catholic. My parents were raised Catholic. Two of my grandparents were converts, and we often find that converts end up having a stronger faith than those who are born into it and kind of take it for granted. And so I'm the oldest of seven, born in less than 10 years, bunch of little stair steps. And our faith was very much a part of our everyday life in our family. I can, as far back as I can remember, we were going to church, and one memory I've got is that my grandmother had a little holy water font by their bedroom door, because they would pray kneeling around their bed, and my brother Joe would genuflect when he would walk past their bedroom door.
Oh, wow.
So you get the idea of a religious household. My grandfather was Jewish, and he converted when he married my grandma. And my grandma on the other side was a Christian church, kind of a one-of-a-kind Christian church. And she was got the sacrament of confirmation when my dad did. And so my parents were both raised in the faith, and I and all my brothers and sisters were as well.
That's interesting. Interesting indeed. Where was this?
We grew up in Fort Worth, Texas, initially.
Okay.
That's where both my parents were raised. When I was 6 years old, we were transferred. My dad's job, Continental Oil Company, consolidated its data processing in Ponca City, Oklahoma.
Okay.
And so from first grade on, I and my brothers and sisters were Oklahomans.
Oh, wow.
And
what kind of school did you grow up in?
I had a combination of public and Catholic schools. I was in Catholic kindergarten through fourth grade, and then my mother got ill, and so in fifth and sixth grade we were in the public school, and then seventh grade I was old enough to ride my bike to the Catholic school, so I was riding my bike to go to the Catholic school from 7th through 11th. And then in 11th grade, the Catholic high school closed, and so I graduated from the public 12th grade.
All right. And so what about church life? Did you live close to the church, or what was your parish like?
It would be like 2 miles from the church.
Okay.
It wasn't far.
All right. And this was still in Ponca City?
Yes, it's still
Okay.
Ponca City.
Well, what else happened in there? Did you start having any experiences where you were being called to the priesthood or anything like that?
Yeah, in some ways, especially more looking back on it in retrospect. I remember that we had a school assembly one time, and there was a seminarian from our parish, and I was a second grader, and he gave his witness about being a priest or being a seminarian. He actually never was ordained, but it just raised the issue. There's also since when in fifth and sixth grade, when I was in public school, we would miss first hour on holy days of obligation and Ash Wednesday and those days like that, to be able to go to Mass on those days. That was still before the Second Vatican Council, and so Mass was in Latin, and but I remember one time going for Ash Wednesday, and had to decide, going back to school, whether I would leave the ashes on. A little concerned about being made fun of by the other kids, and so I thought, well, if I wiped them off, it'd be like I was denying everything I just did. And so I left them on, and the other kids were curious rather than making fun or anything like that. It was a good experience, but it was an experience of me taking ownership for my faith.
Oh, wow. And about how old did you say you were when that
That
happened?
would have been fifth grade.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That was a Holy Spirit moment there. Very neat. Yeah. I remember in my career, I was a convert as an adult. And so a similar thing happened to me. I went to work and somebody thought I had dirt or something on my forehead.
Yeah.
It started up a whole conversation, but very neat.
There was always the thing about, those days we didn't eat meat on Fridays ever.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was always the other kids would be tempting me with their sandwiches when I just had peanut butter and jelly.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, friends. With friends like that, who needs enemies, right?
Well, it was all in good fun, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe they were wanting your peanut butter and jelly instead, trying to trade you for it. All right. So 5th grade and up through senior year. And so what then happened after you graduated?
Well, actually, there's more to the story.
Oh, okay.
And in 8th grade, a really big thing occurred was with the death of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Okay.
And I didn't know much about him, but they had a lot of things in the news about him when he was killed. And for the first time, it hit me that being a faithful Christian is more than just saying my prayers and avoiding my sins and trying to get myself into heaven, but it's also doing what you can do to make the world a better place. And if you don't align yourself with building of the kingdom of God in this life, how do you expect to share in the kingdom of God in the life to come? And so from 8th grade on, it was more a matter of discerning of what the Lord was asking of me to make the world a better place.
Okay.
And that directly led towards in thinking of various options that I considered, and it ended up with the priesthood.
All right. And that would have probably been around the time that you were confirmed as well?
I was confirmed in 4th grade.
Oh, really?
That's how it was done
Okay.
before the council.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow. Very neat. So, so then you said that kind of was spurred just by him being in the news, or was it his assassination specifically, or
him being in the news? His assassination is why it was in the news.
Oh, okay.
But it was finding out about him and what he was doing, and his courage, and the hatred that he is up against, and all of that. So that was part of it.
There was a Catholic presence, you see old photos of them marching in Selma, and you see nuns and priests alongside him. It's very interesting.
Yeah. And another thing, especially I went to University of Oklahoma for 2 years before seminary, was I was thinking, for a little while I was thinking about being a doctor because I liked science, or be a lawyer because I liked to argue at that time in my life. But at that time, being a social worker was kind of the new field. And so I was thinking about maybe being a social worker, make the world a better place. And then it dawned on me that the people that I might be, some of the people that I might be serving as a social worker are poorer spiritually than they are materially. And if they had spiritual roots, they had spiritual resources to draw on, they would deal with adversity a lot better. And I'm reflecting on my own parents when my mom was sick in 5th and 6th grade, but we never felt at sea at all. It was just my parents took it in stride. This is what we're dealing with now. And they had spiritual roots. And so that reflection led me to think, well, maybe I should at least give seminary a try.
Interesting. When I think of social work in the United States, I also think of Dorothy Day. Were you aware of her at any point? Not to get too far off the topic, but
I was aware of her when I was at OU.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So to go back to 8th grade, then you kind of had that fresh outlook on, um, you know, because of Dr. King and trying to make the world a better place and all that. Obviously the Holy Spirit was at work in you. Did you have any other kind of experiences like that before, or anything worth noting before you graduated high school?
Well, I was very involved in the anti-war movement. It's the time of the Vietnam War,
Oh, okay.
and we had a black armband campaign at the high school, opposing opposing the war.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so that was when I was in eighth grade. That was the year when the big Tet Offensive was in Vietnam, and of course, uh, when I was a couple of years later, there was the lottery to see if you're going to get drafted or not.
Yeah.
And so I was very fortunate that my lottery number, I filed as a conscientious objector, but I never had to defend it because my lottery number was 362. And so I was not going to get drafted.
Oh, wow. Okay. How did that work? This was.
There's a lottery where they pull the dates out of a deal, like bingo, and number one, if you were number one, then you were definitely going to go. Except in my year, they actually, as it turns out, didn't draft anybody. That was the first year they didn't, but we didn't know that.
Okay.
And so as the numbers went higher and higher and higher, your likelihood of getting drafted became less and less and less.
So were there how many total? 365? Was it
Uh-huh.
like kind of out of?
365, or if it was a leap year, it'd be 366.
Okay. So they were drawing numbers every day throughout the year. Is that what they were doing?
No, on a single day,
A single day. Okay.
they did. Everybody found out what their lottery number was.
Wow. Oh, golly. Yeah, I've heard some stories just because of some of my older relatives that, some you pretty much knew you were going to get picked. And so if you went ahead and volunteered, you could maybe choose which branch of the services you wanted
That's right.
to be in and that sort of thing. Very interesting. So at that point, when the draft was going on, were you up into high school, like 17 or so?
Yeah, 17, 18.
Okay.
Yeah. The war ended in 1975, and I was in seminary already when the war ended.
Okay. So you graduated high school. Did you go to OU immediately?
I went to OU for 2 years. Was a letters major, which I chose that because that could lead to the priesthood. I was already thinking a lot about that. In fact, I'd written some papers in high school that about things like celibacy,
Okay.
and so I've been thinking about it, but it was just one among other things, what possibilities. I was still kind of discerning.
So what exactly is the letters major? I don't know if I'm familiar with that.
It's a combination of philosophy, classical languages, Greek or Latin, modern language, and history.
Okay.
So it's not useful for anything other than getting ready to go to become a law school,
Oh, okay.
or pre-med, or priesthood.
Okay. Did you, other than the seminarian that you remember from when you were about second grade age, were there any other inspirational priests or anybody that kind of had you thinking about the priesthood at that point?
We had priests in our town that some of whom were edifying. Some are good preachers and some less so, but it was just a Catholic environment
Okay.
all around.
Wow.
We had retreats, especially in high school, and search retreats, or the early search retreats, in fact.
Really?
Retreats, and there were monks from St. Gregory or from Conception Abbey in Missouri that came down and did things with us. So we had retreats and spiritual things. That was inspiring.
So then after a couple years at OU, then you jumped right into seminary somewhere? Or?
Yeah, I applied to the Archdiocese of Oklahoma City. My hometown, Ponca City, is physically in the territory of Oklahoma City's Archdiocese.
Okay.
So I applied to them, um, and they accepted me, and then they assigned me to St. Meinrad. For St. Meinrad at that time had a college as well as the theologate, and so I was which college has been closed since then. But I did my last 2 years of my bachelor's at St. Meinrad in their college.
Oh, okay. All right. For those who are less familiar, the Diocese of Little Rock falls within a metropolitan province.
Mm-hmm.
So can you explain kind of that structure that we're in?
Yeah, the United States is divided into, I think, 37 provinces. And each province has got a metropolitan see with an archbishop, and suffragan sees, each of which has its own bishop. And our province is the province of Oklahoma City, and includes the states of Oklahoma and Arkansas. Um, so the archbishop doesn't. It's not like in the military where this is chain of command.
Okay.
All the bishops in the province are equal, but the archbishop has got some additional responsibilities. So he has to convene all the other bishops for a meeting once a year to talk about the state of their dioceses and to make recommendations for who might be suitable to be a bishop sometime in the future. And so submit names to the Vatican for investigation on that. And then the only other major responsibility that Archbishop has is if there's a complaint against one of the bishops, that you bring the complaint to the Archbishop. And if the complaint is against the Archbishop, you bring it to the other bishop that's been bishop longest.
Oh, okay.
So, and then he oversees the appeals court for the tribunal. But those are the main things that an archbishop does in addition to what all the bishops in the province do.
Okay. So there's the Diocese of Little Rock. Is there one of Tulsa,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's the Archdiocese of Oklahoma City, but they all fall. Is it the three of those then that fall within the metropolitan province?
It is. Yes,
Okay. Interesting. All right.
There's a bit of an odd thing in our province, and that is that usually the metropolitan see is either the oldest or the largest diocese in the province, and Little Rock is both, but it's not the archdiocese.
Oh, interesting.
And there's a theory without any proof that the reason for that is that Bishop Fitzgerald in Vatican I voted against papal infallibility.
Mm.
And he didn't vote. He didn't deny the belief. He thought it was not opportune in the United States South in the 1800s to be talking about papal infallibility.
Mm. Yeah, yeah.
So, but that's the humorous thought of why we might not be the archdiocese.
Yeah. Speculation. Interesting though. So then, when did you get ordained then as a priest?
In 1980, I was ordained in 1980. After those 2 years at St. Meinrad, I did 4 years of theology, and I was ordained a deacon in 1979 and a priest in 1980.
Okay. And what was your first assignment?
I was associate at Sacred Heart Parish on the south side of Oklahoma City. And then within a month, I also had 2 Spanish masses in Clinton and Hinton, Oklahoma. And I did those twice a month.
When did you learn Spanish?
I had Spanish in 9th and 10th grade, and then 1 year at OU, and then just talking with people.
Wow.
I learned it all in Oklahoma.
Excellent. Yeah, that's very interesting. So how many years did you serve as a parish priest before you got called to become a bishop?
I was a parish priest. Well, I wasn't always in parish ministry.
Oh, okay.
I had other assignments too, But but prior to becoming bishop, I had served as a priest for 28 years.
Wow. What other, um, besides being a parish priest, did you have assignments at the archdiocesan level? Or you said you didn't spend all 28 years of those in parishes. You had
Right.
other assignments.
Yeah, I was the vicar for ministries of the diocese, and so was in charge of ministry to priests, continuing education for priests, the deacon formation program, uh, uh, doing the deacon interviews to decide whether we were going to accept someone into the program or not, uh, and then teaching courses
Okay.
in especially in the deacon formation program.
Okay. Well, what's next? So 28 years, and then, um, you got a special phone call.
That's right. It was very out of the blue.
um, so I'm guessing that the Pope is asking for names. So how did all that transpire?
This is how it works. The bishops of the province meet, and they would submit names that would be potential with a little description of why they think this guy would be suitable to be a bishop, and maybe what kind of diocese he ought to go to. Um, that's sent to the papal nuncio, which goes to the Congregation for Bishops, and then they decide whether they're going to inquire further about any of them. The names are submitted, and so they have what's called queritors, which is a survey or questionnaire that are sent to people when the province gives the Congregation for Bishops names. They also give a list of persons that could be contacted for information about them. And so then these queritors or these questionnaires are sent to some of the people whose names were recommended. They would typically be people that you had served with in the parish, people that you'd grown up with, people that were prominent in some other way, some that have a reason to know more than just the surface about a person. And um, so they send those questionnaires, and it's all under pontifical secret. So it's a very big penalty if you reveal not only who you what you said, but even to reveal that you had gotten a questionnaire, because people could figure out, oh, it must be about such and so, and so it's all done in secret behind your back,
Okay.
and which is a way to have a system that is not democratic, but has broad consultation, and so that's what was done. So when I got the Congregation for Bishops puts together a terna, which is uh, uh, three folders with three persons that are recommended for this diocese that's become vacant, and then the Pope would choose one of the three, or reject the whole terna and ask for another terna, but would choose whichever one he chooses, and then the nuncio then contacts the priest that was recommended and asks whether he will accept it or not, and you're free not to accept it, and a significant percentage do not accept. You're not forced to, and that's when I first learned about it. When I got a call on my cell phone from the papal nuncio in Washington, and the funny thing about that phone call was that he said, "This is Archbishop Sambi," and I had no idea who that was. And I was so out of it that I didn't know who the nuncio was for the United States. And he said, "I'm the nuncio." And I said, "Oh, you are? Okay." And then he said, "The Holy Father has chosen you to be the next Bishop of Little Rock. What do you say?" And I just said, "Well, I've always done whatever the church has asked of me. So if that's what he wants, I'll do it."
Amen.
So it was very simple.
Amen. He could have had fun with that. He could have said that he was with Publishers Clearinghouse or something like that. No, that's such a, I appreciate the humility in that answer, in that response. Just being obedient to, what the church asks and everything. So very, very good story. That would have been under Pope Benedict the 16th.
That's right.
Okay. Um, he became Pope, what was it, about 2005, something like that?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I think that's the year that John Paul II died.
Okay. And remind us, what year again was this when you got called to become bishop?
2008.
2008. All right. So yeah, Little Rock, not too terribly far from what you knew of as home, but
I tell people that Arkansas is just like Oklahoma, but prettier.
oh well.
But I could add that I got that phone call when I was driving in my car to a personnel board meeting on the day of the Chrism Mass in Oklahoma City, which is the day when we renew our vows.
Mm-hmm.
And I chair the personnel board, and I'm never late for anything. And so I was like 45 minutes late for that meeting, and the Archbishop was at the meeting, and he knew that I was going to get a call.
Oh wow.
And and then we had the Chrism Mass that evening, and I realized, of course, this is a big secret. It wasn't revealed until April 10th, so after Easter. But I realized that the next time I would be receiving the promises, the renewal of vows of the priest and the promise of obedience, rather than providing it. So it was a pretty powerful evening.
Wow. Absolutely. So then, what was the transition like to Little Rock?
It was real smooth, I think. Of course, every bishop's got a different personality, and so, but the diocese prepared itself well. It had 22 months to prepare itself. There's a long gap between me and the previous bishop. So I think people were getting more willing to take what they get, but I thought it was pretty smooth.
That was during the time when I came into the church. I came in at Easter of 2008, so I remember that Monsignor Hebert was, kind of filling in as, I forget the term. Well,
an administrator.
That's right, administrator. So yeah, that was. I remember when you were installed and all that. That was very neat. So what? Well, let's see. So I wanted to ask you just kind of some of the things that are part of who you are and that sort of thing. What, as a priest or as a bishop, what's your favorite part of the liturgical year, or your favorite thing that you get to do as bishop?
Well, as bishop, it'd be doing the confirmation.
Okay.
It enables me to get into all the different parishes. And so it's not just confirming the kids, which is beautiful, but also to be able to be present to the parish. Excuse me. And because for most parishes, that's my only contact, is that once, if they have it once a year even. Some places don't have it every year, to be able to be in their parish. And so that's, I tell people that I'll go for just one kid. Some of the rural places that's all they've got is one or two kids.
Wow.
But it's a chance to be with their community as well.
So you're traveling all over the state then. How long does that normally take to travel to everywhere? Are you doing this like almost every single day of the week, and it's taken multiple weeks to do it, or
for confirmations? No, it's a lot. I do about 65 confirmation ceremonies a year.
Wow.
and most of them are in the spring and early summer. But to get a drink.
Yeah.
But I do them all year long,
Oh, okay.
but not as many.
I gotcha. All right. Yeah, you so you still have some going on now, but you said all year long, so you'll have some continuing throughout. And I would venture a guess that the the ordinations of the new priests, that's probably a neat one.
Oh, it's powerful.
So tell us a little bit about what's special about the Diocese of Little Rock in that regard. It seems like, this year we had 5 that came in, and that kind of seems like that would be a large number compared to maybe some other dioceses.
Yes, we average 3 a year. Is what we average. So, like this next year, we'll have just 1. And so 5, then now we got 1, and then it's 2 the following year, and then it's another big group. But the young Arkansas is still basically a religious culture, and so the faith is more part of people's lives here than it is typically on the coastlines of the United States. And so right now, young people are responding pretty well. We've got 6 new seminarians lined up for the next year.
Wow.
And so, and they'll be discerning, and not every one of them necessarily will end up becoming ordained, but it's much better than many other dioceses.
Wow. Yeah. And we do still borrow some priests from other countries like India and
That's right.
Africa, or the continent of Africa. But so do other dioceses have to borrow more priests from other countries because they're not?
And they're like missionary priests. Some of them are from dioceses. Ours, from Nellore, India, we got like 14 from there. And they're only here for like a 10-year period. Then they go back. But some dioceses in some parts of the world, especially in Africa and Asia, produce more priests than they could possibly use.
Wow.
And so they don't have an assignment available for these guys, and so they become missionaries, much like the Irish were 100 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And then they send money back to their home dioceses because the pay for priests here is a lot higher than what they get there.
Interesting. It'd be neat if we could get to a spot like that here in Arkansas where we have, as many priests as we could possibly need. Who knows? Maybe with our Catholic media mission, we can somehow be some small part of that to build up the culture here, the Catholic culture.
Yeah. We're doing a lot better with boys than we are with girls. The female vocations have not picked up, but male, I mean, there's one or another, but not very much. With the boys are responding more.
Do you have an idea of why that is? Why there's a kind of a gap between?
I don't know, but for boys to become a priest, it's much clearer kind of what that entails. Where for girls entering a religious order, each of them are different, and and you have to kind of discern Benedictine, Carmelite, what religious order, and each of the religious communities has certain charisms that they characterize them, certain ministries that they are mostly involved in, and so where the priests tend to be more, a jack of all trades in religion. You're doing everything. It's such clear kind of what's being asked of a boy.
They're probably, the priests are probably a little more accessible too, because if you're growing up in church, your church has to have a priest. Whereas some of the kids growing up Catholic may go many years without ever even seeing a religious sister. I just wonder if that has anything to do with it too. There's just not the exposure to that.
That's right. And also the priests are likely to be wearing identifiable clothing,
Mm.
where many religious orders that they don't have any particular habit that they wear. The ones that do have a particular habit are more likely to get vocations than those that don't. But
No, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned earlier about having the ashes on your forehead and that kind of being an identifiable thing about when you went to school and
Mhm.
striking up conversation.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if a religious sister didn't even have any kind of habit, how would you be able to tell her from anyone else
Yeah.
that you meet on the street, I guess? It's interesting point. Well, while we still have time, I wanted to shift gears and get you to tell me about Blessed Stanley Rother and his story and your involvement with his cause for canonization and all that. I think we're coming up July the 28th, being the 45th anniversary of his martyrdom. And
Mm-hmm.
what can you tell us about Blessed Stanley?
Well, I could tell you a lot about him, but uh, there was a time when the church in Oklahoma had a surplus of priests, and so we took on missions in the third world. We took on one mission in Guatemala, and Father Rother uh, was kind of like John Vianney. He was a poor student in school, was not uh, did not excel. He was a farm boy, and so he was much more practical. Uh, he could not learn Latin, and which in those days was required. So he had a hard time through seminary, but had to repeat a year, and then was dismissed for academic insufficiency. Uh, and the Archbishop found another seminary for him that he was able to complete it. But anyway, he was kind of the most improbable person to send on mission because he couldn't learn Latin. How's he going to learn Spanish and the indigenous language, Tzutahil? But he was sent to Guatemala with the other Oklahoma mission team down there, and he stayed. Guatemala, the other Oklahoma missionaries that were down there one by one left, and they some of them left to get married and all that sort of a thing. But Blessed Stanley, he stayed, and then the Guatemala Civil War came to their area, and he stayed. He stayed there. He had his he was um, on the death list at one point, and his catechists were being apprehended and he had killed, and
Mm.
so that was his charism. Uh, I can go back and give you a much longer story regarding him. I don't know how much time we have.
Oh yeah, I mean, we have at least another 15 minutes. So,
Okay.
how was he first accepted by the local people when he went down there?
He connected with them because he was a farmer,
Okay.
and he would go out in the fields and he put in drip irrigation systems to the it's an area with a large population and very little arable land,
Mm.
and so but and it was that was where he learned to speak the local language, talking with the other farmers, and so he connected with the people. The other missionaries uh, uh, learned some Spanish, but never really connected because the local language was Tzutahil.
So, did the political upheaval, I guess, if that's an appropriate term for it, was that kind of already starting to happen whenever he went down there, or was that something that it was more peaceful when he went and it developed after he got there?
It started in other parts of the country earlier,
Okay.
and then it came to their area in 1980. And so, but there was a lot of injustice within Guatemala society, uh, people being exploited, and some movements for change in the society had emerged, and some of them became militarized. But the Guatemala government had these death squads, these militias, and they would come in there and they'd kill people at random. They focused mainly on the indigenous population because that's where the greatest injustices were and the greatest resentment was.
Oh, okay. All right. So, so you had sort of a rift between cultures of people that were of an indigenous race almost, but then you had other, what was it, like Spanish or some other race of people that,
They're called Latinos.
okay,
And Latinos were people that had some European heritage
okay,
and were more prominent in society.
okay,
Give you an example of one of the massacres that occurred there. It's called the Duck Massacre, and there were these farmers that were working a coffee field, a coffee crop, and the soldiers were nearby, and there were some shots heard, and the soldiers were spooked, and they thought they were being attacked. What was happening was there was a duck hunter in the area hunting ducks, but so that's where the shots was. But they attacked all the farmers and massacred them, and then the government was trying to do a cover up by claiming that they were guerrillas. So Father Rother, and so the families of the victims were afraid to claim the bodies because by claiming the bodies, they would be portrayed as being sympathizers of the guerrillas.
Mm-hmm.
So Father Rother claimed the bodies himself and had a funeral for them at the parish church.
Mm.
So those are the things that were occurring
Wow.
at that time.
And all because of a misunderstanding too. A duck hunter. Well, I want to take just a second and hold up this book that it was based off of a presentation that you had put together, and you shared with me earlier that people kept asking for copies of your presentation. This is Blessed Stanley Francis Rother, the first American martyr, adapted from a presentation by Most Reverend Anthony B. Taylor. And it's about 40 pages. It's got pictures in it for people like me who like pictures. But then it's also in Spanish. And I just really enjoyed it. And you've mentioned that there is more of a biographical book that is now available that people could go out and find, but this one is part of your story, part of how you were involved and put together from your notes and everything. You were the first what was it called, the term, you were the first Episcopal delegate for the cause of the canonization of Blessed Stanley Francis Rother. So at what point then during this, let's back up, I guess, a little bit. So he's willing to stick his neck out and accept the bodies of these people that were, claimed to be guerrillas, even though they weren't. I think there's maybe a trip back to Oklahoma at some point, but that when he knew that he was going to be going back, he may never come back to the U.S. Well, not to jump ahead, but just tell us, I guess, more about his story after that. After when he said those funeral masses for those victims.
He did lots of things. That was just one thing.
Okay.
The Army encamped in the area in the fall of 1980, and that's when disappearances began to really occur a lot,
Okay.
and that's when uh, he had lots of the people would spend the night in the church building,
Mm.
yeah, or in the rectory because they felt that they were at risk for some reason. The the first person that was kidnapped was the guy that headed up the radio station that the parish ran, and he had been a transitional deacon, and but his body was never found,
Oh, wow.
and so there's a whole series of massacres, and uh, in the end, 16 of his catechists were murdered, and there were hundreds of just people in the area that were killed in one way or the other. Uh,
So at this point, though, it sounds like they were targeting the indigenous peoples, but it sounds like there may have been a shift more towards persecution of the Catholic Church.
that's right, and there's reasons in Guatemala's history for why that has been a constant theme ever since independence in 1821, and because the church um, in the was opposed by those who were the George Washingtons of Guatemala, and so from the very beginning, and then when Guatemala became independent, much of the church's property was expropriated by the government, and there's it's hard for us to understand how a predominantly Catholic country could persecute the church,
Mm.
but there's things in their history, and this and that is in the background of what the military was doing, and the uh, the local people were doing. It's,
Okay.
it's another chapter in their long history of trouble.
So after these 16 catechists were murdered, what transpired after that?
Well, some of them was after they died after Father Rother did,
Oh, okay.
but the catechists were local leaders in the community. They would gather people for prayer and Bible study, and had more education than the average person. And so the government or the military was trying to eliminate anybody that would have any leadership ability in the enemy.
Mm.
Uh,
Well, yeah, it sounds like there was a little more to them than what I typically think of as a catechist or,
mhm.
um, I think of somebody that maybe is involved in facilitating the OCIA program or something like that, but that's maybe about the extent of it, or maybe the youth faith formation or something like that. But it sounds like they were, especially for one parish to have 16, um, that there was a lot involved in what they did. They were ministry heads, I guess for a lot of different aspects of parish life.
The parish is divided into cantons, which are neighborhoods,
Okay.
and there were a bunch of them, and
Okay.
each of them was headed up by a catechist.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. All right. So, what kind of happened after? Well, you said he he was martyred in the midst of that. So,
Mhm.
I guess whenever that started, you had the funeral masses that he said for those that were massacred, and then some of the catechists started being targeted. What else happened during that time while he was still alive?
They uh, had a ministry to the widows and their families of those who had been killed. Um, uh, Kind of a school sort of a thing for them. But that was going on. Um, of course, he uh, left the mission for a time when he was on a death list, and in order to accompany his associate, who was a priest, a Guatemala priest, to get him to the United States, because the Guatemala priest, his name is Pedro Bosel, was at risk.
Okay.
and and he probably would not have been able to come to the United States without being accompanied by Blessed Stanley Rother, and who came with papers from the Guatemala embassy, the United States embassy in Guatemala, and making arrangements for a visa for Father Pedro. He stayed until just before Palm Sunday, and then he returned to Guatemala. He never intended to leave, and he thought that things had calmed down a little bit uh, to enable him, because there had only been one priest killed during that month or whatever. There were, I think, 13 priests in Guatemala killed before Father Rother was.
Oh, wow.
So, but then he returned on Palm Sunday, and it was when what kind of began was his own Holy Week. As what was going on, what happened to Jesus during the course of Holy Week, he was identifying with that as his own experience as well.
You're talking about Father Pedro?
No,
No, Father
Father
Rother.
Rother.
Okay.
Father Pedro remained in Oklahoma.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
Okay. Okay. So they were both back together in Oklahoma, but then Father Stanley went back.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was not. I believe that Father Pedro should not go back.
Oh, okay. Okay. And then so was it during that Holy Week then that when he was martyred then?
No, it was right after the Feast of St. James at St. James Parish.
Okay.
And that would have been the 25th of July. He's martyred on the 28th.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Okay.
But a little detail here is that the young man who was the gardener, who was forced to lead the killers to Blessed Stanley Rother, was the brother of Father Pedro Bosel.
Mm.
So and I say we, and it wasn't me, but it was able to get. He was then at risk. The boy's name is Francisco Bosel. Was at risk because he was an eyewitness to the events, and so they got him out of the country, and he stayed with me in Oklahoma City, and we got him hooked up with a local Spanish-speaking family where he gets to be with, and all that. But and that's when I became connected with the Blessed Stanley Rother story, was receiving into my rectory the young man who was forced to lead the killers to Father Rother.
Oh, okay. Okay. And how was he martyred? Like, what were the details about his killing?
Well, there were Ladinos, three Ladinos of a death squad came and entered the compound where the parish was at, found Francisco at gunpoint, forced him to lead him to Blessed Stanley, and then Francisco said, Father, they've come for you, or something like that. And he said he opened the door, ordered Francisco back to his room, and then there was an attack on him. He defended himself. there were he was cut badly, and there are bruises in his hands, defensive bruises. But he had said publicly, or said to people, that if they came for him, he would not let them take him alive. And we oftentimes think of martyrs as saying, kill me. But he wasn't like that at all, because he knew that if they took him, he would be tortured. And he was afraid that under torture, he might say something that would implicate somebody else.
Mm.
And so, in order to save other people's lives, he resisted being kidnapped. And he knew that if they came for him, he was a dead man already. And so he wanted to make sure that he didn't cause someone else to die.
Wow. And but ultimately he succumbed to a gunshot wound.
Two shots to the temple.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the how did they get the gun that killed him? I know there is a specific
Hmm.
tidbit of information about this.
I think they just left it.
But they had gotten the arms from the United States,
Oh yeah, yeah, that's right.
which was part of, I guess, a military deal or something.
That's why we know for sure that it was Guatemala government involvement, the Guatemala military.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
So then,
It might be interesting knowing how the death squads work. The
yeah, please share.
they the military would capture somebody who they thought was a guerrilla, and the guerrillas said, "You got the wrong guy. I love our president and all that kind of stuff." And they say, "Well, then we've got a dirty trick. We got some dirty business for you to do that will prove that you're on our side."
Mm,
And so they they would have uh, had them form the death squad. But then after the deed is done, the military would then eliminate those guys because otherwise there would be eyewitnesses out there
oh
to what was
wow,
going on. And so those guys, the actual killers, probably didn't much survive Blessed Stanley.
oh wow,
Now we don't know for a fact that it was done that way in this instance,
right,
but that's the pattern.
interesting. So then it was you said Francisco that
Hmm.
stayed with you
Yeah.
in Oklahoma, and then that's how you got introduced to his cause for canonization. So kind of fill us in a little bit on how you took it from there, I guess.
Well, arranged for Francisco. He stayed with the family in the parish. Uh, Later, he was able to stay with his brother, and now he installs. He lives in Wichita Falls now. So we got him taken care of. But as far as the cause of canonization, Father Rother died in 1981. We didn't begin working on the cause until 2007,
Okay.
because you have to, um, if you're going to have a cause of canonization, it has to be within 25 years. It has to be initiated within 25 years of the death of the person involved. Otherwise, it becomes a historical case, which is a different set of procedures.
Okay.
So we saw that the local church in Guatemala was not in a position to pursue canonization. They had so many other people that had died, and it's expensive, and so we got jurisdiction for the case transferred from Guatemala to the United States to Oklahoma City, and then so we began informed the cause there. I was chosen to be to head up the process, uh, and organized the different groups that worked on various things that were needed, the historical commission, the medical deal, the um, the study of everything he ever said or did.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's a bunch of committees working together on it, and of course the witness testimonies to things, and I was very involved with that, and so but that's how that worked. Uh, we were able to present um, evidence that satisfied Rome that he died a martyr's death. It has to be a martyr. You have to die out of hatred for the faith, not because some people think you're a communist or because they're robbing the rectory. They have to be out of hatred for the faith. They're in harm's way because of that's what faithfulness requires, and the death was violent.
Oh wow.
And so our hardest thing was to prove the intent of the killers, that they killed out of hatred for the faith, because the killers were never apprehended.
Oh okay.
But but this followed the pattern that occurred in all the other killings of priests in Guatemala during that period, and so we were able to demonstrate that the intellectual authors of the crime did so out of hatred for the faith.
Gotcha. What ended up happening there at his parish and that community after his death, and with the the civil unrest and everything that was going on?
Well, the priests at San Lucas Toliman, which is the parish that neighbors, it's half an hour drive, uh, who are from Minnesota, uh, provided every week mass in Santiago Atitlan, but the parish was empty. There was not a priest there, and this is a place with 40,000 Catholics.
Wow.
The nuns that they had working in the parish ran things and kept things going. And then 3 years later, in 1984, Oklahoma City decided to send a missionary back down there. In fact, there were three of us that had volunteered to go down there to take up the things. One of which was Father Rother's cousin, Father Don Wolf, and it was his ordination that was the last visit of Blessed Stanley to the United States, and Father Wolf is now the rector of the shrine in Oklahoma City.
Okay.
But
But the persecution and all that came to an end.
The peace accords of 1996.
Oh, okay.
So there was another 15 years of violence in the area.
Wow. Okay.
Though there was a massacre in 1990 and it's a big story about that massacre, but the public outcry from worldwide was such that the military pulled out of. They had set up their camp on church property and occupied from that place on church property, persecuting the church on and so after 1990, after that last massacre, the next 6 years there was not so much violence in the area.
Okay. All right. Well, then after you came to Little Rock, what has anything else developed with his cause since then?
Well, of course, he wasn't beatified yet. He was beatified in 2017. That's what occurred in 2017.
Okay. Okay.
And in fact, we founded the first parish in the world named after Blessed Stanley Rother in Decatur, Arkansas.
All right.
So the people went to his beatification, and the very next day we began the parish.
Oh, wow. Very neat. Well, golly, unfortunately we're running out of time, but I would love to keep asking questions. Would you mind giving us a blessing?
Sure. In the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Heavenly Father, we are inspired by the faith of your martyrs. Today we celebrate the feasts of the early martyrs of Rome. We ask you to make us eloquent witnesses to you and to the salvation you offer. We lift up to you the people of Guatemala especially, and those in other parts of the world where there is trouble, people of Venezuela right now. And we ask you to bless this blog and all of those who are with us today. And God bless you, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.